Hi, I'm Marshall Brown. Welcome back to Water Matters. When it comes to water, there are folks who talk about it, folks who study it, and then there are the folks who actually do something about it. On today's episode of Water Matters, we are delighted to welcome one of the most active water activists on Long Island, Mr. Rob Weltner of Operation Splash. As you'll see, the members of Operation Splash get directly involved in cleaning up our waterways and developing and supporting other initiatives that will ensure that our waterways stay clean. Please join me in welcoming Rob Weltner of Operation Splash, one of my personal heroes.
Thank you, Marshall. Since our founding in 1990, Operation Splash has grown to include several thousand members in 7 chapters dotted all along Long Island's South Shore. Our 6 splash boats patrol the waterways with volunteer captains and crew members and run from March through November. Over the past 3 decades, our volunteers have rescued more than 2 million pounds of trash, marine debris, and navigational hazards from our bays, beaches, and waterways. Most of what we pull from the water comes from land around us and through storm drains and from storm blowing debris into the water. Aside from collecting trash, we have also made tremendous headway in stemming the awful tide of sewage being dumped into our bays and the toxic pollution entering our waterways through stormwater runoff. Our award-winning Splash Education program is teaching thousands of students each year about the importance of our South Shore bays and challenges they face. Students of all ages from elementary schools through college enjoy the classroom program, the bay tour by boat, the trip down the nautical mile, and seeing the saltwater tanks brimming with local marine life. With the leadership of talented, environmentally passionate marine tradespeople, educators, and business owners, Operation Splash has remained focused on its mission and produced extraordinary results. As an example of one of our programs, let's look closely at our Clean Marina program. So why a Clean Marina program and why now? 5 topics we'd like to discuss with our Clean Marina program are bilge water, which I have my little bilge sock here, boat cleaning and bottom painting and prepping, black water management, which is the toilets, and the plastic shrink wrap that becomes a very big nuisance when we're done with it. One of the reasons that we do this is because toxins do move up in the food chain and we don't want to eat all of those nasty chemicals. So bilge water management and a Clean Marina program, so something as simple as throwing a bilge sock into the bilge. It absorbs oil and other chemicals that might be floating around in the bilge, all too common with marine engines. Boat hull cleaning in marinas is one of the things that we really try to work on and focus on, because bottom paint, when you put it on a boat bottom, it's meant to kill all marine life, and it's bad enough that we introduce that into the bay environment, but when it's removed from the boats, we don't want to see it get back into our estuaries. This is what happens in many marinas where they wash the boat bottoms. They power wash the boat bottoms, and all that paint goes back right into the estuary and stays and settles on the bottom and keeps on killing. Black water management, that's pump outs. So a lot of boats have toilets in them, and it's important that we use pump out stations and pump out boats, take all of that sewage and not dump it into the bay or into the sound, but put it into the right facility and send it to a sewage treatment plant where it's not going to do damage to our marine life. And the plastic shrink wrap is just another one of those things that has been a convenience for us. It's easier to wrap a boat in plastic, and at the end of the year, just throw that plastic into a landfill. A lot of that plastic shrink wrap gets lost. It finds its way out into the bay and the sound. It settles on the bottom, and it settles on the salt marshes, and it smothers that area and kills all that marine life. There is a market for it, and it can be recycled, and that's what we have worked out with several municipalities, to take all that shrink wrap back and send it to the proper facilities and have it recycled and reused. So why would a marina want to do this program? Because there are monetary benefits to it. We're not just asking them to make changes in the way they do business, we're asking them to improve their business. They can make a few extra pennies by doing some simple things, adding bilge socks when you commission the boat every year, when you wash the bottoms, recycle that paint or just get rid of it in the proper way you do it. And boats are inherently vessels that everything we put on them, the cleaning detergents, the bottom paint, the waxes, all that stuff doesn't really belong in a marine environment. So it's very important that all the chemicals that we use to clean our boats, teat cleaners, waxes, like I said, all that stuff should be kept out of that marine environment and make sure it doesn't escape into the water. Good marinas, good for business, and good for the environment.
If you get sick, your doctor may give you medicine, and you might have some left over when you get better. So what do you do with it? Here's what. Don't ever flush drugs down the drain, because we're beginning to find them in our water here on Long Island. See, whatever goes down the drain ends up in our drinking water or in our bays and streams. So jump in and help keep Long Island's water clean. Don't flush medicines down the drain. Learn more at liwater.org.
If we're going to solve our water issues on Long Island, we'll need an informed public. Jump In print materials about water issues on Long Island can be co-branded with your organization's logo and are available at no cost to local nonprofits on Long Island and for minimal cost to local agencies and water departments. To learn more, please visit our website at liwater.org or call our office for more information. Let's spread the word about Long Island's water.
People working on water issues on Long Island understand that we have a problem with nitrogen. It pollutes our bays and streams as well as our drinking water. Most excess nitrogen is coming from sewage systems, but there is another significant contributor: water-soluble, high-nitrogen lawn fertilizers. It's pretty ironic when you think about it. We're spending millions or even billions of dollars trying to reduce nitrogen levels in our water, and yet every spring, consumers flock to the big box stores and the garden centers to buy huge bags of lawn fertilizer that contain high levels of synthetic nitrogen that dissolve in water, up to 40% in some cases. And making synthetic nitrogen fertilizer is dependent upon continued fossil fuel extraction, which is increasingly dependent upon fracking. But that's a whole other story. So we're paying to make the problem worse while we're paying to make it better. Okay. High nitrogen lawn fertilizer, that is any product with a first number higher than 10 on the bag, can turn a suburban lawn bright green in just a matter of days. But a lot of that water-soluble nitrogen never gets to the grass plants. It drains right through the soil and ends up in our drinking water supply. Or it washes away with heavy rain and ends up in our streams, rivers, and bays. So how much does fertilizer contribute to our water problem? Estimates vary from 8% to 15%, or even more in some areas. But here's the thing. This is the low-hanging fruit of Long Island's water issues. It's a problem that can be fixed right now, and it can have an immediate impact on the quality of our water, and it won't cost a dime. There are plenty of high-quality, low-nitrogen lawn fertilizers on the market today that contain water-insoluble nitrogen. This kind of nitrogen is broken down by microbes in the soil rather than water, so it stays where you put it and it nourishes your grass plants slowly over time rather than all at once. It's better for the plants, and it's certainly better for our water. These are the fertilizer products we should be using on Long Island. Sometimes people need help making the right choices. Now, manufacturers are reluctant to change their formulas until there is a market for their products. That's why it's time for our elected representatives in Nassau and Suffolk counties, as well as in Albany, to pass legislation that prohibits the sale or use of any lawn fertilizer with more than 10% nitrogen and require that half of that nitrogen be water insoluble. Getting rid of high nitrogen fertilizers is not going to solve all of our water problems here on Long Island, but it is certainly a common sense first step that could make an immediate difference for us and future generations. I'm Patty Wood, and that's my soapbox.
The views expressed on the soapbox are not necessarily those of Water Matters, its sponsors, hosts, guests, or underwriters. If you'd like to stand on the Water Matters soapbox and sound off about a water issue, send your script to soapbox@liwater.org.
Welcome back to Water Matters. Our guest today is Rob Weltner of Operation Splash. Rob, tell me how the organization got started.
In 1990, Joanne Grover came home from college and she wanted to save the world. And her father, Al, said, well, Freeport has a lot of trash in the waters. Why don't we start here? And Operation Splash was born.
Now, you mentioned in your presentation that there are 7 chapters.
Yep.
Where are they?
We have one in East Rockaway, Bay Park area. We have one in Freeport. We have one in Wantor, Massapequa, Babylon, and then we have a chapter in Amityville that doesn't have a boat, but they do 2 cleanups a year using Operation Splash people and their own people.
So if you're from those towns, you just need to go to operationsplash.org.
Yep,
and become a volunteer.
Become a volunteer, yep. We say put the remote down, get off the couch, go out and make a difference.
Well, for years I've been saying, please come east. I'm from Sabo originally. Are there any plans afoot to establish more chapters further east? Is there anything that we can do as an organization to help you extend your reach?
It's pretty simple. We have the business formula down. And we just have to find a boat for you and people who are interested. And then we can get them started under our not-for-profit umbrella. And all they got to do is, help us raise enough money to put fuel in the boat and insurance. A boat costs money to run.
Sure.
Say it's a hole in the, in the water, you just keep throwing money. But it's pretty simple. So, hopefully we can, get some interest out further east and get another chapter started.
Well, we certainly have the trash for you. So we're doing our part. There are a lot of marinas on Long Island and a lot of boats registered. It's about 100,000, I think.
I think about 100,000
Yeah,
boats.
so 100,000 boats and about 200 marinas. That's a big lift.
Yeah, it is a big lift.
If you could describe your conversations with the different marina owners and how that's going. You pitched that they could make more money if they offer these green services. That seems compelling, but what are the pushbacks, if you will?
Well, it's based, these guys have been doing this their whole lives, and like I said, I spent a lot of time at marinas. I as a commercial diver, I put in bubble systems for them and changed props and zincs underwater. And there's no life at the bottom of a marina because of the bottom paint. And we're trying to get them to, use different methods to remove the paint. You have to have a license to put it on, but taking it off is just there's no real standard for that. And all we're asking them to do is to keep that bottom paint out of the bay as much as possible, because once it gets into the bay, you're kind of contaminating all that soil around there, and it's a gift that keeps on killing, we say. Once it gets into the sediment, it's a long, long time before it dissolves and stops.
Yeah. I've seen that at marinas where they're sanding the boat and the dust is flying everywhere. And what a chilling insight that marinas are basically dead zones because of the boats.
Yeah, they use a lot of pressure washers to get the paint off the bottom of the boat when they haul them out at the end of the year. This is the worst time of year for us because all the boats are being taken out of the water, and the standard operating procedures for marinas to haul the boat while it's still wet, pressure wash the bottom with a high pressure washer, and all that water runoff sometimes finds its way back into the estuary and into the bay. And like I said, once that bottom paint gets in there, it's pretty much curtains for any kind of life on the bottom of that marina.
I mean, the paint keeps the barnacles from growing on the boat, but it also keeps everything from growing.
It keeps everything from growing on the boat.
Right.
Seaweed, and you have to have that. But I said it's just the method that it's used to remove it is going back into very sensitive areas, and we're just asking them to make a few changes in their procedure, which is not going to cost them much money. But it will help the big picture. It is beneficial to them because people go on a boat because they want clean water, they want to catch fish, and this will help that. So it'll help promote boating, get it back to where it once was.
I'm passionate about maps, about online maps.
Yes.
Well, I just mapped all the members of the South Shore Estuary Reserve, the Citizens Advisory Committee. So they're all there. There'll be a couple more too bad, but what if we did this? What if we mapped all 200 or so marinas on Long Island, and with that established a green marina program so that we would certify those marinas that are practicing an environmentally friendly
I think that
boat
would be
cleaning and painting and
a great idea. We've had several marinas in Freeport where Operation Splash is based out of, and one of the largest ones is Al Grover's, and I mean, he has hundreds of boats that he takes care of every year, and last year he switched over to environmentally friendly bottom paint.
that's great.
So there are a lot of marinas that are participating with us. It's just, we want to try to get everybody on board. That's the goal, is to get everybody to work together and get our bays back to where they should be.
Well, I love your logo. Whoever did that should do one for the the Green Marina program,
Yep.
and then people would know where in the area they should have their boat moored and serviced.
Yep, that would be a very good idea. Most consumers, most boat owners are very environmentally conscious. I know a lot of boat guys and marina guys took a lot of heat for all the trash that we pick up, but very little trash comes from boating people. Most of those boating people pick up the trash that comes from land-based sources. So we're all in this together, and like I said, we have a lot of marinas that are participating. New York Marine Trades has been very helpful. There's a group out east that does a lot of good things with green marinas and trying to stem that tide and turn that big ship around to get people to understand that boating is an inherent disaster for marine life. We like to think of our bays and oceans as a giant fish tank, and if you put all those chemicals in there, the fish are going to die. So everybody understands that now, and we just got to make that happen.
What if we design a placard, laminated placard with basically elements of your presentation? Here are the 5 bullet points for running a green marina, and then posted them at participating marinas.
Oh, I think that would be an excellent way to get marina owners to make that switch, and also educate boaters, because I said most people don't really think about their actions. I was one of the worst examples of it. When I used to come back from fishing, I would have fish blood all over my boat, and I would take Comet, sprinkle it on the deck, scrub the deck, hose it down, turn the bilge pump on, and watch the white water pump over the side. And then one of those days, the light bulb went off. I'm like, that was pretty dumb.
And yes, I think in some way or another we're all making amends for our previous
I have
sins.
a lot of sins to make up for. So like I said, until you understand that there are consequences to all of your actions around the water environment, which boats are, like I said, we need to change some people's thoughts on how things work.
How's the effort with Bay Park going?
That's going very well. That plant has been a thorn in our side forever. It's done a lot of damage to 10 miles of the south shore of Long Island and Nassau County, from inlet to inlet, from Rockaway Inlet to Jones Inlet. I mean, nitrogen overloading, that is the 800-pound gorilla swimming in the bay.
All these marshy islands being...
The salt marshes that save us from these heavy storms that we've been experiencing, and nor'easters, they're being eroded by all this nitrogen pumped in there. So Bay Park, during Sandy, we know that it went underwater. It stopped working. Over 2 billion gallons of
raw sewage
was pumped into the western bays. And now...
but even when it was operating, and it was over 50 years, the treated effluent, the nitrogen-laced treated effluent was being pumped out right around its channel.
There was no nitrogen reduction.
And the flow there was it just sat.
50 to 60 million gallons every single day, nonstop. People don't stop flushing their toilets. They don't stop taking showers. They don't stop doing things that they do, and all that it treats half of the sewage in Nassau County.
Yeah. Well, just as a point of reference, the Exxon Valdez held 58 million gallons of oil.
Right.
So it's the equivalent of an Exxon Valdez of nitrogenous water.
Yep.
So, but once that problem is solved, once the what's the cost of the new plant?
Well, they've built a giant wall around it, so hopefully it won't flood again. They have been funded over $800 million to rebuild that plant, elevate all of the electric switchgear and all of the critical systems that need to be pumping and working during a storm event. Because when the plant went down, the pumps stopped working and sewage started backing up into people's houses all the way up the line. So the plant will be hopefully bulletproof, during another event, and everything will keep going. The plant will keep working as it's supposed to work, and we won't have any malfunctions.
Well, there's that, but then of course there's the outfall pipe.
Yeah, that's the one last piece of our big puzzle, is to try to get that effluent from stopping being pumped into the western bays. When they built that plant, the original thought was that it would be dispersed through the two inlets, but through science, we've had numerous studies from Stony Brook, engineering firms, USGS, and it shows that the water stays in the bays there. So when the tide is coming in, the inlet to the west, Rockaway Inlet, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 15 minutes later it's coming in Jones Inlet, so it's pushing all that water back into the back bays. Like I said, destroying our salt marshes and our wildlife.
Recently, someone proposed using old pipe that runs basically along Sunrise Highway.
Yes.
So we can have the effluent go out via Cedar Creek.
Yep. There's a 100-year-old pipe that runs under the eastbound lane of Sunrise Highway, and we used to pump water into the city. That's what that pipe, part of that aqueduct system, was used for. And actually yesterday, the Nassau County legislators passed a contract that they're going to inspect that pipe to see if the effluent from Bay Park can go through that pipe and go out of the ocean outfall pipe for Cedar Creek, which would be a godsend to the western bays, which,
Yeah, I mean, that outfall pipe otherwise comes with a very expensive price tag. I've heard $690 million was the first
there's all
pass.
different estimates flying around, but the one that we think is pretty close to being true is $450 million for a pipe just to go out into the ocean. It's a tremendous amount of money, but then you have to weigh the cost against the economic benefit that the western bays would come back to life again. Be better fishing, be better for boating, marinas, swimming. You don't want to swim near a sewer pipe.
No, but the economic argument is very strong here to if we restore the western bays, restore the Great South Bay. I mean, we had in the Great South Bay a $500 million shellfish industry, but with sewering we could possibly bring it back. And likewise, I know there's some efforts being made to repair the marshes around the western bays. Could you speak to that? What would the future of the western bays look like with the Bay Park plant situation being resolved, and what other efforts are there around environmental remediation?
Well, we can use an example that a couple of years ago there is a sewage treatment plant by the Jones Beach Theater, and that was dumping right into Sloop Channel, which is the state boat channel. And through efforts of several environmental groups and our elected officials, we were able to get that pipe redirected and not pump into the channel in the bay, and it was redirected to the ocean outfall pipe and went pumped out into the ocean. And in 2 years' time, all of those areas have been recertified and open for clamming again.
Wow.
There's eelgrass growing. The water is beautiful, clear, and it looks like it's been reborn in about 2 years. So the Western Bays, that's a small picture, and the Western Bays is the bigger picture. But we think within 5 years, there's thousands of clams in the Western Bays, but you can't clam there because there's a sewer pipe, doing what it's doing every single day. And if we could redirect that waste to go out to the ocean, and all those clam beds would open up, and it would become, like I said, the economic benefits to everybody that lives in that 10-mile stretch of Nassau County would be tremendous. And within 5 years, we think it would be pretty close back to the way it should be, the way God intended it.
Well, as long as people continue to be proper stewards, I know that you're a big advocate of no wake zones.
Well, we've had some issues with some very large vessels, using the bay to speed around in, and those giant wakes throw big wakes and they hit the salt marshes, and those salt marshes are very fragile. If you stand on them, and those wakes are hitting them, it's like jello, and they collapse and fall into the bay, and they make the bay shallow, and then the big boat owners want to have the bay dredged. So it's our salt marshes are one of the most important things that we have. And I know out in the Great South Bay you don't have many salt marshes. So I've been in, Nassau County on a windy day, and I've driven over the Robert Moses Bridge, and it doesn't look like we have no waves, and you guys look like you have victory at sea. So, we always ask boat owners, just because you have a big boat doesn't give you the right to speed around. It's like putting the Titanic in a bathtub. You just got to take it easy, enjoy the ride, enjoy the scenery. You won't spill your cocktail if you're going slow. And life is good for everybody. So like I said, it's not nobody owns the bay, and we all should, be good stewards of the bay and take good care of it, because it gives us so much back.
What about jet skis and kite surfing?
Well, jet skis, they are another little pet peeve that, makes us sound like we're anti-everything. But when you look at what those things are doing versus, the benefit that if you have by racing around and going through these cuts, I used to dive through those cuts and snorkel through those cuts because it's so full of life, and big fish hunt in there at a high tide. And then you have these, we call them blenders, because they come through with the impellers, and they, there's birds feeding on the shoreline, and the wave runners come flying through there, and it's just not good for the environment. It's not good for the bay. It's not good for the fish. So a few people are doing that, and it's ruining it for a lot of people. So we, like I said, we're not anti-wave runner. There's a place for them.
Sure.
But that place is not zipping through the cuts, chasing birds around and grinding up bait fish and scaring big fish around. It's a very sensitive area. It's not, it's not the Wild West out there like it has been treated in the past.
Yeah, and it gets real crowded. We talked about the 100,000 boats. I think it's like 28,000 in Nassau and 63 in Suffolk, and out this summer on the Great South Bay, it was boats everywhere, and with that sea foam, it's like a bubble bath.
Yep, like I said, it's a nice place to enjoy, and zipping around and going fast. That's some people's thing, but that out in the ocean, that's the place for that. In the back bays and in the tidal marshes, that's like sacred ground, and we should enjoy it and make sure that it's there for future generations. I feel, like I said, I made that mistake before with my boat, and I feel guilty that, I have 3 sons of my own, and when I was growing up as a kid, it was magnificent, and now not so much. So, I feel a responsibility that, I want this to be there for, my kids' kids and their kids. I want this to be there forever. I don't want to see it disappear, and it shouldn't disappear. And I said we should all kind of take care of something so beautiful.
I couldn't agree more. Of the 10,000 or so people in our Facebook group, Save the Great South Bay, the average age is like 45. People old enough to remember what it once was, and who want to leave a legacy behind for their children and their grandchildren.
Yeah.
So I look forward to working with you on this. I look forward to having a chapter of Operation Splash established. I kind of like the West Sayville, Oakdale, Sayville area. So that would be wonderful if we could do
There's
that.
plenty of trash to go around.
Yeah, there certainly is.
Unfortunately.
So great having you here. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
being-
much, Marshall. Appreciate it.
You bet. That's going to do it for this edition of Water Matters. I hope you tune in again for another show right here on liwater.org, because here on Long Island, water matters. I'm Marshall Brown. Thanks for watching.